Evening and welcome to Tamil Heritage Trust's monthly Heritage Talk. We have a very exciting time ahead at Tamil Heritage Trust. A lot of events coming up in May and in June, and then after that in July as well. We'll keep you posted in a minute about that. But for those of you who are new to Tamil Heritage, just a very quick introduction. THT was set up over 12-13 years ago with the objective of understanding, appreciating, disseminating, and importantly, celebrating India's rich and varied heritage. And towards this, we conduct a number of programs, all free to the public. We have the monthly Heritage Talk, which is this particular event, which happens on the first Saturday of every month at 5:30 p.m., including today, when the world has a new king, but THT moves on. And we also have a monthly Heritage Talk in person. The English talk on the first Saturdays is online. The in-person talk is in Tamil, and it's in person here in Chennai, in Mylapore here. We have annual seminars. One is known as the Pechu Kacheri, which coincides with the Kacheri season or the music season of Chennai. It's a 2-day deep dive into any one topic. Last year, we had Vidyaśankara, a city, a dynasty, and an empire as the topic for the Pechu Kacheri, where we had over 10 talks talking about the architecture, the history, the art, and so on. We also have something called the Indology Festival, which is an online festival, a week-long festival. The second edition was held last year. It was called the Temple Builders of Medieval India, where we covered all the medieval dynasties and their legacies as they are left behind for us in terms of temples. This is an annual online festival. All our talks, events are available online, free to the viewers. You can go to our YouTube channel and you can watch all of them. And we request you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you also receive some notifications on our future programs as well. We hold workshops. One of them is the annual site seminar, where we prepare about a particular set of monuments or a site anywhere in India and visit the place for an in-depth study. We also do short one-day workshops here in Chennai. One is called, popular one is called the How to See a Temple. We've just restarted this post the pandemic, which was conducted in February, March, April, and we'll continue as we go along. We have a program for teachers to support their efforts to establish heritage clubs in their schools and to enhance their knowledge of India's rich heritage. There are a couple of awards that we anchor. One is called the V. Venkaya Epigraphy Award, which is to recognize exceptional individual contributions in any Indian language towards epigraphy in the country. The first such award was given away last year. It was instituted by the family of Sri V. Venkaya, who was India's first Indian epigraphist to the government of India. The first edition was, the award went to Dr. Y. Subrailu. The other award, which is now in its 4th year, is the THT Professor S. Swaminathan Heritage Award, which has been instituted in the name of our co-founder, Professor Swaminathan. That he is giving away the award to the winners over the last 3 years. As I mentioned, we have a busy schedule coming up over the next couple of months. First of all, we have restarted the How to See a Museum workshop, which is a one-day workshop coming up on Sunday, May 21st. We still have a few seats left on the program. So those of you who would like to register, if you're in Chennai, or if you're passing by Chennai on May 21st, please join the How to See a Museum. It involves a set of lectures in the morning and then an afternoon of a visit to the Egmore Museum, which is a treasure house of Indian bronzes and sculptures. The second edition of the V. Venkaya Award has been announced. We invite nominations for them. We have extended the last date for nominations to May 20th. So if you know an epigraphist who is deserving of this award, please nominate. Anyone can nominate anyone. So please send in the details. All the details are available on our website. Please send in nominations. We invite you to do that. We talked of the Indology Festival. The 2023 version of the festival is coming up between June 5th and 11th. It's a week-long festival, as I said, 7 days, 14 talks every evening from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. We have practically the who's who of maritime history of India under the title of Sagara Sangamam, India and the Sea. We look forward to all of you joining us for the Indology Festival 2023 as well. If you'd like to know more about what we are doing and would like joining our mailing list, please write to admin@tamilheritage.in, and we'll ensure that you don't have to miss any of our programs that we conduct. Which brings us to today's program, and I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Purnima Srikrishna. Thank you very much, ma'am, for accepting our invitation to deliver this talk today. And she will be, of course, talking about the art, the architecture, the iconography, and symbolism of the Vidyaśankara Temple at Sringeri. Dr. Purnima did her MA in English Literature, and then she was awarded a PhD in History with the University of Mumbai for her work on this very same temple. She's a recipient of research grants by the Luigi and Laura Dallapiccola Foundation. She's received the Telang Memorial Scholarship from the Asiatic Society of Mumbai, the Heras Tata Institutional Fellowship for her doctoral work on the Agraharas of the Tunga. Her areas of research are temple art, architecture, and iconography. Her publications include John Faithful Fleet, a monograph co-authored with Leela B. Joyce, and it's available for you to buy her book on John Faithful Fleet. Thank you very much, ma'am. I would also like to thank Dr. Kumud Kanitkar for introducing us to Dr. Purnima Srikrishna. And with that brief introduction, I'd like to welcome and hand you over for this great talk on the Sringeri Temple, Dr. Srikrishna.
Okay. Thank you so much. I will now have to.
Yeah, you can start with the share screen. And
yeah.
yes.
Start.
You can proceed now.
Namaskara to all the viewers of the Tamil Heritage Trust. It's a privilege to speak about my viewpoint about the Vidyaśankara Temple, which has fascinated, enchanted. Actually, I can use all the synonyms of captivated me and helped me spellbound all these years. It continues to do so. I would like to briefly introduce Sringeri, the Vijayanagara connection, to you people. Vidyaśankara Temple has been built under the supervision of the Acharya of the Sringeri Matha, and I strongly believe that it reflects the eclectic nature, the Smartha Advaita philosophy. Having said that, I will very briefly speak about Sringeri, the Vijayanagara connection, and introduce you to this small but extraordinary, beautiful temple. The uniqueness of the Sringeri Temple is in the floor plan, the presentation of extraordinary and rare icons, and above all, the subtle aesthetic presentation of the philosophy of Adi Shankaracharya in its art and architecture that sets it apart from other shrines. Sringeri is a name by which it's currently known. A small town in the heart of Malnad, Sringeri is located in the picturesque Sahyadris, in the Chikmagalur district of modern Karnataka. The river Tunga, this is where the location of Sringeri is. The river Tunga meanders through this town and also originates in the western parts from a hill called the Varaha Parvata in a place called Gangamul. This river flows in a northeasterly direction, suddenly turns to west and flows again towards the east, joining Bhadra, another river, which also originates from the same Varaha Parvata at a place called Pudli. From here on, the river is called Tungabhadra and finally joins the river Krishna. And now for the name Sringeri. The Rishyashringa story is quite well known to most people. He was the son of Rishi Vibhandaka, who was the son of Kashyapa. His birth, his very strict upbringing, his journey to Angadesha, bringing rain to an area which was drought-stricken for 7 years, his travel to Ayodhya to conduct the Putra Kamishti Yoga Yajna that gave Dasharatha 4 sons is pretty well known. From Ayodhya, Rishyashringa and his wife Shanta are supposed to have gone back to look for his father and tend him in his old age. And looking for him, the search ended at a temple called Malahani Tereshwara at the hillock in Sringeri. Soon Rishyashringa and his wife settled in Sringeri. The last days of Rishyashringa was supposed to have been spent in Kigga in the neighborhood of Sringeri. He thus lent his name Rishyashringagiri, Sringagiri, and this later became Sringeri. The Vijayanagara connection with Sringeri Matha is quite also well known, but still just a little recap. There was no Samsthana in Sringeri. It was a cluster of small hermitage scattered in and around Sringeri. The time of Sri Vidyaśankara and Sri Bharati Tirtha saw major political upheaval in the south of India. The Hoysala kingdom, which had many setbacks, was going through a turbulent period. A fragmented South India with many small kingdoms were invaded over and over again. It was at this crucial juncture that the Sangama brothers, Harihara, Kampanna, Bukka, Marappa, and Madappa, managed to gain enough support from other local chieftains and bolstered with the additional support and blessings of the Sringeri Gurus, Vidyaśankara Tirtha and his 2 disciples, etched a remarkable and memorable turn of events in South Indian history. Vijayanagara came to existence. The patronage of the mighty rulers slowly but surely changed the fortunes of this small matha. A small hermitage became a Dharma Samsthana. Sringeri locally got to be called Muru Savirada Muru Varaha Sime, meaning land worth 3,003 varahas, varahas meaning gold coins, which they had got as donations. To the average Hindu, the temple is a house of God and its religious, philosophical, and metaphysical qualities are of prime importance. To the student of aesthetics, the temple structure is not just a place of worship, but an extraordinary piece of art. Why did the architect give the temple its particular shape? What functions do the different parts serve? Is there a way to understand this temple as a whole? Is a question which excites a student of art. The master architects and sculptors of ancient times have left such a wealth of information for the discerning student that sometimes after a dozen visits to the same site, a new dimension is thrown up, which leaves one wondering how it was missed in the earlier visits. The approach to the art of building differs in each and every culture, and each culture has a peculiar contribution to the other building. The Vidyaśankara Temple, before I had a glimpse at it, was a temple famous in Karnataka for its Rashi pillars, zodiac pillars. In Sringeri, where the ruling deity is Shardamba, everything else is secondary. Devotees, after darshan of the Devi, usually rush past the Vidyaśankara Temple to get the blessings of one of the most other important person, the Shankaracharya. As they pass the temple, they tell each other about the antiquity of this temple and promise themselves that if the time permits on their way back, they will take a look for a darshana of the Vidyaśankara Linga. And then rush to the third most important part of the Sringeri. According to the visitors there, the lunch served there, which is like the prasada, which is distributed free to all the travelers. The Vidyaśankara Temple casts its magic slowly and surely. I first visited this as a student of aesthetics, and then I started working more at it. This temple, built over the samadhi of Sri Vidyaśankara Tirtha, the Guru, Sri Vidyaranya and Sri Bharati Tirtha of the Sringeri Matha. It is one of the finest memorial temples. Legend says that Sri Vidyaśankara entered a chamber excavated on the northern bank of the river with precise instructions to his Shishyas that he would meditate in Lambika Yoga. In this temple, there are absolutely no inscriptions on anywhere, neither on the Adhisthana nor on the wherever else it would be. All that exists is a 17th century poem called Guru Vamsha Kavya by Sri Kashi Lakshmana Shastri, who was the Asthana poet of the Sanstana. Guru Vamsha Kavya was written much after the Sringeri temple had come into existence. Nevertheless, it's sort of a recap of what might have happened when this temple was built. The 7th canto is about planning, execution, and consecration of the Vidyaśankara Temple. The first 3 verses of the 7th canto also say that it was over this hallowed place that the Vidyaśankara Temple was constructed. The temple is built entirely from granite, which has a flaky texture. Granite, though strong and well suited for structures which stand the test of time, is a little difficult to sculpt. The sculptures at the Vidyaśankara Temple, for this reason, are not as sharply edged as the Hoysala period temples. Nevertheless, they more than make up for displaying to the discerning viewer a variety of exceptional, unparalleled sculptures. This is the front view of the temple. As a monument, the temple is not very large. It comprises only an enclosed mandapa, an antarala, and the Garbhagudi, enshrining the Vidyaśankara Linga and other sub-shrines for other divinities. In shape, it's elliptical. In plan, stellate. The Vidyaśankara Temple combines features from both the Hoysala and the mature Vijayanagara architecture styles. The dimension of the temple area follows length 100 feet, width 67 feet, and the height about 74 feet. The floor plan is quite exceptional. The common and mostly used floor plan shapes in temples are rectangular, square, apsidal, or round. The deities enshrine the geographical area and the text of art and architecture most prevalent in that area contribute to the choice of plans. The floor plan of the Vidyaśankara Temple, without deviating from any of the prescribed architectural norms, uses a comparatively less known, less elaborated plan, Dvashara Vritta. The floor plan of this temple is most unique. It has a double apsidal plan created by multiple setbacks according to the high planes on which it is erected. An offshoot of the Gajaprishta, which means the back of an elephant, of course, is the Dvashara Vritta. Dvashara Vritta means a plan formed by 2 linear sides and 2 curved ends, giving it a flattened ellipse. The architects of the Vidyaśankara Temple have chosen an infrequently used plan to construct this magnificent edifice. To the best of my knowledge, there is no other temple of this shape as I have seen. The floor plan, when stripped of all the external embellishments to its basic shape, is a square with 2 equal halves of a circle on the east and west faces of the square. The Dvashara Vritta, or a flat ellipse, is an amalgam of circle and a square. And even structurally, it is seen that the internal division of the plan occurs only at correct junctures between a semicircle and the square or the slight rectangle. An interesting corollary is actually the ritual slant of the Garbha within such temples is that the pitha or the pedestals on which the deity is placed, iconic or aniconic, is usually also elliptical or circular. The Dvashara Vritta plan is employed in architectural styles even to the superstructure of rectangular shrines. And it's said that among the earliest such in the south would be the innermost shrine proper of the temple complex of Ranganatha at Srirangam. This is just to say what exactly it is an offshoot of. Vidyaśankara, flattened ellipse and all this. A square is literally the fundamental form of a sacred architecture in India. It is considered the perfect form. It symbolizes order in unequal form. And it's the absolute. It symbolizes earth, the four sides signifying the four directions which bind and define it. The circle is another perfect shape. It has no beginning or an end, thus signifying timelessness and eternity. It is said to be the metaphor for heaven. A combination of a square and a circle is a coming together of heaven and earth. The square and the circle being combined is commonly seen in a number of mandalas, but here in the form of a floor plan of a temple, it points to the profound knowledge of the donor and the architect about the variety of floor plans available, and the urge to experiment with a less tried system, as the whole temple was an experiment in building an edifice which was unique in more ways than one. Now I come to the elevation. The Upapita, the base, outlines the contour of the structure. It adds height to the temple structure and gives it a more lofty appearance. This is seen as a Chalukyan influence, later adapted by the Hoysalas and carried forward by the Vijayanagara tradition. The final slab of the Upapita forms an Pradikshina Patha around, or the ambulatory around the temple. To reach this slab, there are 6 steps with yali or elephant balustrades. Since there are 6 doors to this temple, there are 6 sets of steps, one each to the east and west, and 2 each to the southern and northern sides of the temple. This is the Adhisthana. The Adhisthana, which is the real base of the structure, follows the same pattern as the Upapita. These two have moldings, but have been superimposed with highly embellished sculptural bands, friezes. There are 8 such friezes. The lintel architrave has a Gajalakshmi in the center, with Ganapati and Saraswati on both sides. There are 6 entrances to the temple interior, resplendent with 6 doors. 1 door again is to the east, 1 to the west, and to the southern and northern sides. And 7 steps lead from the Adhisthana to each of the entrances. The roof of the temple is in 3 tiers or 3 terraces, with the Shikhara and the Shukhanasi in the center of the western apse. The first and the lowermost tier following the contour of the temple. The Shikhara on the western apse of the temple can be circumambulated too. The roof imitates the wooden log-like coverings, but in stone. It actually looks like a stone corrugated roof. It actually resembles the roof of the Lad Khan temple at Ayvada. The only surprise here is that the roof is flat and not sloped as most temples in this rain-hit area are usual. In the Vidyaśankara Temple, uniqueness is the norm. The iconography cannot be explained merely by comparing it to the iconography in some other temple. The floor plan, the layout, the placement of the icons, and some individual icons, and the Rashi pillars is what I attempt to deal with this next section. We will go around the temple as we would normally do any temple prediction. 1, to understand and appreciate the placement of the larger icons, and to look at some of the panels on the 8th frieze, which is a narrative panel. On the first, on the first circumambulation, are the icons. Yeah, icons. I think I'll show the icons first and then the written one next. This is Yama in the center with Mrityu holding a snake which has two heads of 5 heads each. Both of them have, there's no tail, both sides have heads. And there is Chitragupta on the other side. There is also Kala. That's the whole thing. One Kala, one Mrityu, one Yama, and Chitragupta. In Garuda Purana, the mansion of Yama was always referred to as the Lord of Justice. It is described in detail. The Lord of Justice sits on a throne, pure and incomparable, 10 yojanas in extent, bedecked with all kinds of jewelry. He is waited upon by Mrityu with a noose in his hand, and Kala, who is still more powerful, and by Chitragupta, the recorder of fate. Yama, Mrityu, Kala, and Chitragupta are given as much prominence in this temple as the other deities. The Kalinga Mardhana narrative is on top of the kinnaras of these icons. Yama is as a Dikpala, is a familiar figure. Chitragupta makes a very rare appearance. But to my knowledge, Kala and Mrityu, which I haven't seen in many iconographic texts either, but this is what the local authorities in the temple tell me it is Kala and Mrityu. And some of the older books also mention this as Kala and Mrityu. This portraiture could be called Yama's Darbar. In my view, taking into account that the southern direction is considered the place for Pitrus, and as Yama, the Lord of Death, has his abode there, my suggestion is it could be indicated that this is a memorial temple. This is the temple built on the samadhi of a realized soul, and the Vidyaśankara is built as a memorial for a great guru. And as legend tells us, it is on the hallowed spot where Sri Vidyaśankara went into samadhi. And just to share some notes with you, this is what about the Garuda Purana I have just. If people want to read it, you could. The niches after Kala on the southern wall of the temple are devoted to Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. They're seated in well-designed postures. Their consorts, Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati, sit demurely on their laps. I'll show you the pictures. Their feet are placed on little footstools. Vishnu, who is in the central niche, is seen in the Narasimha Avatara. What I would like to show here is, in this picture with all this, is that there are Trimurtis on the southern side of the temple, and exactly on the opposite side of that, on the northern side, are the Devis, just the Devis, Parvati, Lakshmi, Saraswati, and Annapurna, and all the rest. And similarly, as we go further, there is Dakshinamurti placed on one place, and absolutely the same line, Hayagriva on the other side. And the third one is the Surya Mandala and the Chandra Mandala. I'll come to each one of them. This photograph, this picture is just to show the placement of the gods there. Now here on the northern wall of the temple, in line with the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, are the special niches for the Devis. One thing that is special about the Hindu religion is that it gives female energy an equal status. Lakshmi, this is the Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara panel. Vishnu has the face of Narasimha in this particular panel. Narasimha is quite a favorite in the Sringeri Matha, and special pujas are always done there. And even the place where the Guru stays, and that place across the river, is called Narasimha Vana. So Narasimha on the whole has a special place in the Sringeri Matha. So Narasimha, Vishnu and Shiva. And the female energies are shown on the northern side. Parvati as the female energy of consort of Shiva, and she has been immortalized in many forms. In a Shanta or benevolent form, she's called Lalita Tripura Sundari, Raja Rajeshwari, Uma or Gauri. In her Ugra or angry form, she's Kali, Mahishasura Mardini, Chamundi, Durga. And Saraswati, who represents intelligence, cosmic knowledge, creativity, enlightenment and education, music and arts, and many more things, along with Parvati and Lakshmi, can be called the Tridevi concept as against the Trimurti concept. There they are, the three Devis. On the side, there is Annapurna, which I haven't taken, but all the Devis are shown in this. All the same size as Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. Everyone, nothing is smaller or bigger. Going on to the next panel is a Dakshinamurti and Hayagriva panel. Dakshinamurti in the southern direction is not very commonly depicted in the Kannada-speaking areas. It's very common in the Tamil areas. Hayagriva, on the other hand, who is placed in the northern direction, is a very popular figure in the Vaishnava, especially in the Madhva and Ramanujan sects. Dakshinamurti and Hayagriva. Dakshinamurti is an aspect of Shiva as a guru, a teacher of knowledge. As the name suggests, he is always portrayed facing south. This aspect of Shiva and his personification as the supreme of the ultimate awareness, understanding, and knowledge is the destroyer of ignorance. Is depicted as a young man seated under a banyan tree with his right hand in Dana Mudra, looking up to this great teacher of the old ascetics. There are four under the statue, if you can see it. Eager to learn from him the ultimate principle. This is conveyed to them in silence, and the ascetics receive communication in silence. He is not as widely represented in Karnataka as in Tamil Nadu. Hayagriva, on the other hand, is very revered by Madhava and Ramanuja sects of Vaishnavas. It is said that he rescued the Vedas, which had been stolen by the two asuras, Madhu and Kaitava. In the Devi Bhagavata, it is stated that a Rakshasa or a demon named Hayagriva received boons similar to those by Hiranyakashipu. And as usual, he began harassing man and beast. The gods implored Devi to help them. She in turn directed them to Vishnu, who, heeding to their request, was born on earth with the face of a horse and the body of a man to kill this Rakshasa. Since he rescued the Vedas, Hayagriva is looked upon as the god of learning. The Vishnu Dharmottara Purana says that the four hands of Hayagriva should be placed on the heads of the personified forms of Vedas. Dakshinamurti, on the other hand, is a youthful teacher imparting knowledge, teaching the Vedas, and removing doubt from his aged pupils by his very silence. He is the ultimate guru and embodiment of knowledge and destroyer of ignorance. Both these gods, Dakshinamurti and Hayagriva, have in their natures designed for them four people seated beside them, who are of the same size as the main icon. Each of them has a book and a stylus. They are very similar looking. Again here, my contention is that these icons are personified Vedas. Both the gods, one worshipped by Shaivas and other by Vaishnavas, are connected to the Vedas. The sculptors, with the help of these icons, aesthetically reiterate the philosophy of Advaita, that all sects and all roads lead to Brahman, and the freedom of choice that the Sringeri Matha ardently follows and propagates. These icons, I think, have been placed in these niches to show the eclectic nature of the Smarta tradition. Now we come to the magnificent Savitri Mandala and Chandra Mandala. They are very two breathtaking panels. One is on the, again, north and the south walls. I'll show you the pictures now. So again, here I've shown you where the Chandra Mandala and the Surya Mandala are placed, just to see how the placement has been done. This is the Savitri Mandala. It's one of the most beautiful compositions you could see. There are two people at the side giving them arghya. There's just one horse for the chariot, not 7 horses, Savitri chariot. And she's sitting in a circular mandala facing south. To balance the Savitri Mandala, an exquisite Chandra Mandala is carved on the northern wall, occupying the same amount of wall space. The sun and moon are placed on two opposite walls of the temple, the north wall and the south wall. Chandra too is seated in a circular mandal. He has 10 hands but only one head. He is pouring the contents of 2 kalashas on his head. Some people also, or priests there, call him Mrityunjaya because he's pouring Amrit on his head. Both these deities are in chariots. Savitri has just 1 and Chandra has 2. An interesting thing noticed about the horses are that the one carrying Savitri faces east, the other one carrying is west. The temple Shikhara in architectural terms has been variously called Kailasha, Meru, etc. And even in Guru Vamsha Kavya, it says this abode of Shankara looks like Meru Parvata as it inhabited by gods. It shines forth with a golden hue. The sun, according to the Puranas, is supposed to circumambulate the Meru mountain, as is the sole supporter of the universal space. The moon, in turn, is regarded as one of the planets surrounding the sun and going round and round Mount Meru. Here it looks like it is a symbolic representation of the sun and moon circling around the Mount Meru. This beautiful representation of the sun and moon in the form of mandalas of the south and north face of the temple, perfectly placed. A balance has been achieved by the placement of these icons in their respective places. More importantly, the temple as a depiction of the cosmos, with Mount Meru at the center of the cosmos, is aesthetically and symbolically put across in a very unique way. Later on, when you go into the temple, we'll see the Rashi pillars, which also add to this structure being on the Mount Meru, around the Mount Meru. Now, after these, we come to a very interesting panel. This is, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't show you the Chandra. This is the Chandra Mandala. Manasaputras, part of the west and south. I mean, you can read it there. The west and the southwest walls of the Vidyaśankara Temple have 9 niches, exclusively for the mind-born sons of Brahma. They are large sculptures and have been allotted the same type of space dedicated to the other gods. The trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are the humanized forms of Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya, creation, preservation, and destruction. All 3 aspects are equally important. Vishnu is represented not in 10 but 11 avatars here. Shiva is presented in his Leela Murti and Samhara Murti forms. But the creator Brahma, unfortunately, has no avatars. The most amazing aspect of this temple pertaining to the importance of Brahma is a presentation of his Manasaputras. The sculptures of the Manasaputras are very similar, each carrying a Surva and a Sur, and the other attribute, and a Hansa as at the foot of the Manasaputras. He is recognized as the creator, but just in one form. So you cannot give him different forms. And I think it's because to make equal status with Vishnu and Shiva, that the Manasaputras of Brahma have been carved before the Dashavatas. They are given equal status here. Brahma is very important in this temple. Even on the Shikhara, there is a Brahma icon, first Shikhara and the second Shikhara. On the Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara niches, smaller ones, but they're there. So in this temple, in the Vidyaśankara Temple, the creator of the universe is given his due. Like they say, a beautiful paragraph, I don't know where it is from, about the 3 Murtis. They exist through each other and uphold each other. They are twin parts of one another. They are not for a moment separated, and they never abandon each other. So there are 9 such. I've given you a picture of 4 here. There are 9 portraits of Manas. And everything about them is just the same. No change. But there are 9. Now the Dashavatas. Here too, there's a slight interesting change is that when you're circumambulating the temple, you see Kalki first. And then you go down to the Matsyavatara, which is not usually done that way. I don't know. That's how it is here. The western apse of the temple is dedicated to the avatars Vishnu. So here again, as I said, cultivated in this. Now, after Kalki, the Buddhavatara is very, very different. It's like a Jain Muni, a Digambara actually. I will talk about the Jain when I come to another aspect of Shiva. I'll talk more about this personality. The Buddha image is a Jina image actually. And it is also true that much before the Samsthana and Matha were established, this area had a lot of Jain. There's a lovely Parshvanath Basti in Sringeri, which is very much older than the Sringeri temples. It is said, I'm not too sure whether it is true, but legend says that when they had these usual discussions and talks and they lost to Shankaracharya, they shifted to Karkala and Mudbidri, which is again a very strong Jain center. So Jain, and then the Matsya, I'm not showing you all the 10 avatars because it'll take too much time. There are too many, there are 61 huge icons here. Just the important. Matsya and Kurma are shown like this. They don't appear from out of a man. It's completely like the animal that they are. Then I'm going now to the manifestations of Shiva, which are shown on the outer wall. The ones I have shown here are the Markandeya Moksha, Somaskanda, Ardhanarishwara. They're all of them, but I'll be showing you a few of them. This is the Kalantaka. It's a very, very differently done. Markandeya is holding on to the linga, quite happy. I mean, it doesn't look scared. The Pasha of Yama is going around the linga and Markandeya. And we have the foot of Shiva is emerging from the linga on the chest of Yama, and even a dagger at his chest. It's a very interesting one. Now I come to one of my favorite icons in this temple, the Tripurantaka. This icon in the form of Tripura is one of the most well-crafted and fascinating icons of this temple. Mythology and symbols fulfill the need raised by the weakness in language to express fully the intuition of this. The symbol used show the deep study into the mythology of Tripurantaka by the people, the sculptors. Now, the story of Tripura and their wounds and destruction has been dealt. But one of the most peculiar and interesting features of this icon is the arrow Shiva is holding between his bow. The arrowhead has the figure of Buddha or the Jina figure. And it's on the shaft that we have Vishnu. There are scattered references in the various Puranas about Buddha's role in this episode. Some of the Puranas mention Buddha in a less favorable light. They present Buddha as a ploy by Vishnu to corrupt the demons and sway their minds away from Vedic learning and teachings. Buddha was born for the destruction of the Asuras and the restoration of Dharma. He has lotus-like eyes and was handsome like the gods and was born like the fruit of penance, is what is said in one of the books. So this one great art critic and artist, a historian says, Champat Lakshmi, this form was assumed by Shiva to destroy the three Asuras who were deluded into becoming the worshippers of Maya Moha, a form taken by Vishnu, who in order to help the Devas against the Asuras, produced this illusory form from his body to lead the Asuras astray. In fact, the Maya Moha form was equated with both the Jain Digambara monk and the Buddhist bhikkhu, and was meant to be an illusory form for deception of all the Asuras who gave up their adherence to the Vedic Dharma and who contradicted Brahminical beliefs and rituals. It is said that Shiva did not want to kill the Tripuras because they were his bhaktas. And these stories are the ones which they use to say why Shiva said, okay, finally, to doing what he did. You can see Brahma, the charioteer, sitting at the ground level there. It's a very, very beautiful one. There are many, many stories about Tripurantaka from various other Puranas, each one saying, slightly changing the other one. The sculpture with one addition of Buddha to this icon has given prominence to a major aspect of the Tripura Samhara story, as the icon is extremely unusual and distinctive. It stimulates the viewer to probe and find what role Buddha had to play in the whole story. The story gathers importance as Adi Shankaracharya's Advaita philosophy, with the focus on Atma and Brahma unity, was directly opposed to the Buddhist philosophy of denial of the soul. The next one I show you is Gajasamhara Murti. Nothing very different, but the beauty of it is that the Prabhavali is the body of the elephant. He's standing on the head of the elephant. His legs and tails, everything can be seen of the elephant. And Shiva is in the front. So this is other bigger icons. There are 61 big icons. Some of them just average, but these are the ones which just stand out in this particular temple, according to me. This is the Adhisthana. We are going around the temple again to see the stories, which are on the 7th and 6th frieze. Some of them, not all of them. There are, again, on the 100 and something panels there. In this Pradikshina, there are first 27 seem to be an adventure or a procession to some Raja. And then there is, it looks like the Ashwamedha Yajna. And then in the further down, it has horses and adventures. So these are important for the common man, because stories, parables, and simple narratives speaks better to him than the higher Vedanta philosophy. And Sthala Puranas create a bond for them. And a lot of these stories are not there in the bigger books, but in the local history of that particular state or that particular region. This is another aspect of this 7th thing, to see the Adhisthana, where all this temples. This is a horse. I mean, a lot of horses here, because that's why it makes me think it's the Ashwamedha Yajna. One of the panels showing a horse climbing up a mountain and coming down. The next panel shows is coming down. Now, this is the Kirata-Arjuneya story. That's why I think all the panels are Arjuna stories. Kirata-Arjuna story is very, very popular in the Karnataka temples. I've seen it in almost all, and this particular temple has this whole story there, like Arjuna going to the forest, and then him looking at that boar, him shooting at it, and Kirata shooting at it, and that huge fight which ensues between the Kirata and Arjuna, with Parvati quietly looking on the whole thing, and how finally Arjuna gets tired and then plays to Shiva, saying, please help me. And he sees all his flowers on the head of the Kirata and realizes that he is fighting the Lord himself. Supposed to show a lesson in humility and not to be very thrilled about one's power it has. So this is also on the 7th frieze. This particular panel, which is not very clear, is Shiva in the center giving the Pashupatastra to Arjuna, with all the gods standing there, seeing that he's getting the Pashupatastra. This also, I don't identify this, but it looks like it's Brahma. And this has a woman, and the next panel has the same Brahma with that woman playing the veena. So I'm not too sure what it is, but these are all on the 7th frieze. This is supposed to be Adi Shankaracharya with his 4 Shishyas. Lot of controversy, lot of talk about it. They also say, how come Shankaracharya is shown with a Kulavi? Now, Kulavi was something which was very popular during the Vijayanagara period. Including the king, he had a Kulavi. So I'm not too sure, but it is normally said it's the Adi Shankaracharya with his Shishyas, the panel. And he has got a danda at the back of him. And there are 4 Shishyas there. So it could be the sculptor's viewpoint of Adi Shankaracharya. It's a small panel, not big, very small panel. Then come these. There are 12 such ascetics sitting comfortably on various animals on this temple. Now they are called the Nathas. Navanathas were there. These are 12 in this. there is some connection between the Nathapanthis and the Sringeri. What the connection is not very known, because there are no books or any written material or any even stones or shasanas available on that. But it is said that there was a strong connection between the Natha Pankti and the Shankar Mata. And they were very influential with the Vijayanagara kings. So it could have come through there also. But there are 12 such panels. In the Someshwara temple in Alsur also, there are Navanathas, huge ones. And it's very, very well done. One Professor Tarikari, who has done a lot of work on this Nathapanthi, says the Matsyendra Natha was very, very popular in Andhra and Karnataka region. And he also says, invariably, the Matsyendra Nath will always face water bodies, a river, a lake, it is what is written in his book. And all fishermen hold Matsyendra Nath in very high, maybe because of the name. These are all a salutation to the Hatha Yogis who had a good relationship with the Sringeri Mata. They're pretty popular in Karnataka and have built temples and established monastic settlements. I call the next few panels the students and yoga abhyas. It's like a school. There are teachers teaching children. There are teachers praying. There are yoga poses. All of them is found there. It's very interesting. I'll show you one more picture. See, this is the yoga. These are the Navanathas because they could be very well seen. So I have got it drawn. These are all on the 6 frieze of the temple. And this particular one, which is very common in Vijayanagara, a combination of an elephant and a bull. Most of the Vijayanagara temples will have one small little panel like this, somewhere or the other. And other than this, at the lower panels are these animals which have really no names as such. And then we come to the entrance of the temple. Give me a minute. I seem to have kept my paper somewhere else. Anyway, this is the entrance of the temple. And these are the Rashi pillars. There are 12 such pillars. Huge. You come from a Hoysala exterior to a Dravidian interior. And most of the temples of that time had these Rashi pillars on the outside of the temple, never in the inside. But here you have them inside. This is another aspect of the temple shown in a drawing form. How the yali looks and how. And this is the back of the pillar has the planet, the deity ruling the planet, and Surya on top. All the 12 pillars have it. The 12 Rashis. And the god which rules over that Rashi, and Surya. So it is also said that these Rashi pillars and the sun and the moon, all of them represent Mount Meru and the planets and all of them going round and round. Now this is, when you stand in front of the Garbhagudi, there is, in the middle one is of course the Vidyaśankara Linga. The one G at the bottom is Ganapati, and the D is Devi, Mahishasura Mardhini. Now there is an inner circumambulatory in the temple. You get into that from the side of the Ganapati temple. And then inside are 3 small places in which Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara are placed. And then you come out from the Durga Mahishasura Mardhini side and out of the temple. And these can be entered in through the outside also by the steps. I've put arrows outside there, red arrows. You can get into the temple from that side too. This is the Brahma. And next to Brahma temple in the center of the west facing is Vishnu and then Shiva. So it is a memorial temple and it's a Shiva Panchayatana temple. Vidyaśankara Linga is in the Garbhagudi. The Vidya Ganapati to the right of left is a Ganapatya. And Durga Mahishasura Mardhini is Shakta. Lakshmi Narayana is the Vaishnava. And in the top of the Rashi pillars, that is a lotus which is hanging on there. That they call the Saurya. So that way they say this is the Panchayatana Puja temple, Shiva Panchayatana Puja temple. This is what the Matha believes and they propagate it as a Shiva Panchayatana temple. These are the papers on which material is stored in they're kaditas, they're called kaditas. And they are covered with tamarind paste and some other materials, dried in the sun and written with like a chalk, badappa we call it in Kannada, and they're all written there. These are preserved. There were many more such things which got destroyed, but these are preserved in the library of the Matha. There, and from here you get a lot of information between the royalty which ruled at that time in Sringeri and the amount of money they got from him, how they protected them, and all that information is available in this podcast. This is just to get you back to the how they think, just a recap of how the things are placed. No, I just want to go back to the Yali pillars. Yeah. So these Yali pillars were very popular in the 16th century and in the Vidyaśankara architecture from the 16th century. They were already existing, but they became more popular later. And these are all zodiac. The Yalis, or the composite pillars, face the center of the mandapa. And on the other side of the pillar, facing the inner walls of the mandapa, are the Rashi symbols carved on the pillars. What makes this composition more interesting is that the ruling planet of the zodiacal sign is carved above it. And above the sun, the ruling planet, is carved the image of the sun. The signs are in this order from the eastern entrance and move in a clockwise direction. Over the years, a legend has developed after the pillars. It is said, whenever the sun moves into a particular zodiacal sign, its first early morning rays light up that particular pillar over which the zodiacal sign has been carved. And actually, this was the most popular thing of this temple. Everybody said Rashi pillars, and the sun comes and falls in the Rashi. Lots of investigation has been done by scientists, and they all say, no, it doesn't. They say it does fall on some, but all the Rashis do not get lit up during the, but there are scientific studies done. And there is one more person who has done, called Dr. Srivatsa. He says, for an observer on Earth, the Earth appears stationary in the center, and the sun and the moon and planets appear to be moving along the orbit. The center of the Rashi Mandapa, according to him, symbolizes the Earth, which also is the center of the orbit. All around it, each pillar, which is at an angle of 30 degrees, symbolizes a particular zodiacal sign, and the sum total being 360 degrees, which is the total orbital span in degrees. This is an interesting method of sculpture to bring home the zodiacal circle and the movement along it to an observer standing in the center of the mandapa. Probably, the sculptor wanted to put across the concept of zodiacal orbit in the design of the mandapa. The day the sun is on the equator, at the time of sunrise, the sun rays would directly hit the Garbhagriha. He concludes that the Rashi Mandapa pillars are not intended to measure the zodiacal transition of the sun at all. The 12 pillars represent individual signs and totally the orbit. He thinks that it also represents the universe, along with the representation of the sun, moon, planets, and the zodiacal signs around the mythical Melu. This temple is an iconographic representation of the universe, is what Dr. Srivatsa has written about. Of course, the main sanctum, we have the linga, which I haven't photographed. A little bit about the Panchayatana Puja, which is done here. Shankaracharya was known as the Shanmata Sthapana Acharya. And Panchayatana Puja existed much before Shankaracharya came into the picture. But then he found that there was a set of people who were not included. Shanmukha's followers did not follow some particular books. So they were kept away from the mainstream of the Panchayatana. To put them all together, to include them into the Panchayatana, he included the Shan and made it the Shanmata. How did he place Kumara then? So he said Ganapati or Kumara, both are there in the same section, and you can worship in it. The whole concept being that there is no difference. Every god can be worshipped, and all of them lead to the ultimate being one with the good God. But you cannot always say you have to do only this or that. So he gives us the freedom of choosing. Like I might keep saying, everybody loves sweets. So now, which seed do you want? You like this or that? So there is one favorite seed. So to compare it to a simple answer is keep the main one in the center keep all of them next to them. All of them are important to you, but the center one is your favorite. So if a Shiva Panchayat, and if a Shiva is your favorite god, keep him there and keep the rest around and pray to them equally, is what the philosophy of the temple states. Now, I have nothing extra to add to this, but a study of a temple does not and should not end after ascertaining historical data, identifying the type of structure and naming the sculptures present inside and outside the temple. The cultural, religious, and architectural significances have to be examined with reference to the available data and the extraordinary variety of ancient texts and that exist. And the local texts and Sthala Puranas have to be given their due, if any conclusion has to be reached in the proper way. Especially in here, there are a lot of Sthala Puranas which are not found in Mahabharata or Ramayana, but local, some small little sect has that. And that is, maybe the sculptor came from that and he included that into the temple architecture. So it has a lot to run and read more and understand this to understand the temple better. What is the message and philosophy of the temple structure? What is the iconography trying to convey? Have the deities icons been successful in forming a bridge between the average human being gazing at them and the intrinsic philosophy projected? Vidyaśankara Temple too, there is much more than an array of beautiful and grand narratives. Polytheism is a characteristic feature of Hinduism, but no Hindu seriously believes in the multiplicity of gods. He is aware that each of the many gods that he worships is merely an aspect of one God, who is the God of other religions too. There are a lot more icons in this temple which are very interesting, but then that will take 2 days to explain because there's so many of them. Harihara is there. Harihara is between the panels which finish off by Vishnu's and then the Shivas start. Between them, that Harihara statue is there, a icon. It's an interesting way to say this is over and now new one starts. Then Rama worshipping a linga, which is supposed to be right in the side of where Rameshwara is there. Now everybody knows Rama did do worship linga there to get rid of the Brahma Hatya. So these are all different things which have supreme significance in other places. So finally, I would like to say that I would wish everybody visit this temple if they haven't already done so. And instead of just looking at each one, see what each icon conveys, and especially the placement of icons. I think that's one of the most beautiful things that's there in this temple. So I would like to stop here if it's okay. And
thank you, Dr. Purnima. Can you close the sharing of the presentation so we can have some Q&A session? Yeah. Okay. So I have collected a few questions from the audience, and I have some questions that I have and I would like to ask.
Sure.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I must say that I have not visited this temple yet. I do go and visit a lot of heritage places. This is in the to-do list, and I'm yet to go there. And I will certainly now, thanks to this presentation, I know what I have to look out for. Yeah,
want a good guide, I'm there.
Sure, thank you. That's a wonderful offer, and I will certainly take it. The first thing is this Yama's, the Yama's, let's say Darbar. It doesn't seem like he is a Dikpala there. If he was a Dikpala, you would see
Yama is the South Dikpala, so the South.
But you don't have the set of Dikpalas all around the temple.
There are 5 Dikpalas.
Okay. And if so, why are the other three missing? Because normally, if you look at, let's say, temples of Kalinga, if you take, there the set of 8 Dikpalas are properly placed. They're not the main. Sometimes it is just those 8 are the only sculptures around. Sometimes you always find a niche to place them, and then there are so many other things. Here it seems like Yama has been given sort of disproportionate space.
I have talked about Yama.
Okay.
There are Indira is there, and there are 5 Dikpalas. All 8 of them are not there.
Okay.
But I have talked about Yama because I thought the more than Yama by himself as a Dikpala,
the fact that you have Chitragupta and Mrityu. Yeah.
That was what was more interesting. And so, but then we don't have 8 Dikpalas in this. Nritti is not there.
Okay.
Chana is there.
Okay.
And Kubera is there.
Okay. So now, are the others also in a sort of a large panel format with accompanying?
All of them are in the large panel format. None of them are small.
Okay. That's really interesting. Okay. And some of the other things that you talked about of pairing of Dakshinamurti and Hayagriva, these are really interesting.
It is. It's quite surprising also because they're very different. Hayagrivas from mostly the Madhavas in Karnataka are very great for that.
No, in that sense, I have some controversial questions also.
Sure. If I can answer, I will.
Yeah, if you look at typically the Agama-driven temples, be it Saiva Siddhanta temples or the Vaikanasa Pancharatra temples of the Vaishnava variety, they have a very clear document telling them how the temple should be constructed, where who should be placed. There are very, very clear details. Now the Smartha Vedic approach to temple building, what is the basis on which it is done? What is the document?
I do not know what basis it's done, but there's evidence to say that one of the Mathadhikati, one of the Shankaracharyas himself, got this temple built, and there must have been a smaller Samadhi of Vidyaśankara before. And it is built over that little temple. And why the choosing of these icons and how they would choose, there's nothing written. That's the biggest problem of this temple. Nothing, absolutely not a shred is written anywhere or even carved anywhere as to what has happened. These are all things which we see over the years, and we think it's because the Smartha's thought is that everything leads to the same, and it might have been done this way to prove that all roads lead to the same end.
I get the particularly there are the reasons why I said controversial. There are 2 things, and I will anyway state them, and then we'll go from there. The concept of Shanmata from Ganapatyam / Komaram or Kama Komaram with Saiva, Vaishnava, Shakta, Saura. I have been saying, based on what other scholars have been talking about it, that Adishankara sort of fronted that. I'm not saying he discovered the concept.
No,
one of the proponents. It has been there, but he was one of the major proponents of that, in a sense, right? Which is one of the reasons why, in a normal, typical agamic Hindu temple, you certainly have a typical Shiva temple in the Saiva Siddhanta concept. You will have Vishnu supposing the temple is east facing, you will have Vishnu on the west koshta. You will have Brahma on the north koshta. On the south side, it will be Dakshinamurti and Shiva. Ganapati will be there. If there are more koshtas instead of a 3 koshta system, there's a Pancha koshta model. Then you start with Ganapati, then Dakshinamurti, then Mahavishnu, then Brahma, and then Durga. Normally, there will not be a place for Kumara. It will be found, I mean, if there are niches there, it will be placed. Or if later on you have separate shrines, you will have shrines for him. Surya is not, I mean, Surya icons will be found here or there. Sometimes, Shiva himself is seen as sort of representing Surya also, right? Yeah. Now, here, when you see the location or the prominence given, these Smartas have a different kind of a construct. In some of the Pandya caves of Tamil Nadu, particularly there's one in Rockfort, Trichy, Lower Cave, there is a complete set of, it's a cave temple carved of the entire, what the Rockfort that you see from a distance, underneath this is there in one of the caves there. You would see, as you enter the cave temple, there are shrines for Shiva and Vishnu opposite to each other. On the back walls, there are 5 niches. At the center is Brahma. On either of his side, you have Ganapati, Subramanya, and on the other side, you have Surya and Durga, all in one particular place. It's in Tamil Nadu, there is no other place which has got this kind of a complete set, right? Now, even, temples that have been built at a much later time. This is clearly before 8th century or around thereabouts. It's certainly before 9th century, most likely around late 8th century or early 9th century at best. So this temple has this complete set. And later on, that has not been present anywhere in Tamil Nadu. We can clearly see that the temple that you are talking about is much later in time. It's almost, the
end of 16th century.
16th century, right? Now, this obviously must have been sort of a core theme for the Smarta, the Shankaracharya specifically, who has triggered the kings to construct it specifically, right?
I don't think the kings have constructed it at all. I think it was completely constructed by the Matha people. There was no.
I see. There's no support of. Maybe there might have. Okay.
There is no evidence as such, as not even like if it was a king or some big man who wanted to build a temple, he certainly would have put an inscription that he did it.
Okay.
Or a picture of himself somewhere saying that giving something to the Shankaracharya or something of that sort.
Okay.
There is absolutely no such thing except for the Guru Vamsha Kavya, which is existing, which says Guruji of, and in that poem it says one of the gurus, he doesn't even name them, I don't know, asked this Thapati to build this temple, and the Thapati looked at him saying, do you have enough money to get it built? And then to humor him. I mean, these are all stories, okay? But what the Guru Vamsha Kavya says. So the Guruji bought handful of jewels and threw it into the Tunga, showing that yes, I can spend that much. Money can be spent like this.
Okay. Okay.
After that is spent. But that is the problem with this particular temple, is that there is absolutely no written or sculpture on it except one stone Shasana, which says Akka and Bukka and the queen of Hoysala, one queen, all visited Sringeri to pay the respects to the Guru there. And then that is on a stone Shasana, which is there in the temple premises only.
Okay. Okay.
Only one available.
I see.
So whatever else we may say, or I may say, what I think it might be. It is not in any book or anybody had said that so.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, next is the question about the Tripurantaka and the arrowhead. So there's a question from Uma Sendilve, where she says the arrowhead has Buddha image in the form of a standing jina. She's asking, is that a standing jina?
It is a standing jina.
So what she is asking is, what is the Puranic or literature reference to this. But she also has a continuing question. Request to say something about the iconography of Vishnu in the shaft of Tirupurantaka Murti's arrow. In which direction the Lord is facing? I guess it's basically, facing towards the arrowhead or towards the...
No, it is facing the person looking at the arrow.
Okay.
In front of the icon,
Right.
you can see the frontal view of Vishnu.
Yeah. So my observation elsewhere, for example, it's there in both in the painting form in Tanjavur Brihadishwara Temple, as well as part of a panel outside the temple in between two outer perimeters, where the entire story is narrated. So Buddha does appear because the three asuras of the three puras are hardcore Shiva Bhaktas. Shiva cannot destroy them.
Yeah, that's the story.
So that's the story, is that they have to be driven to
destroy them because they are hardcore Shiva Bhaktas and they don't look at anything else.
Right.
Vishnu there are 3 or 4 stories. I don't have the exact name of the book, but I have it with me.
Right.
That Vishnu creates the Buddha to show them a different path. And when they stray across and go to the different path,
right.
then Shiva gets angry and agrees to do the samhara.
Right. And the arrowhead is supposed to have Vishnu there. Because
Actually,
that's how
says it has Agni.
Okay.
It has Agni. Vishnu is always on the shaft.
Okay.
One of the stories says it's Agni. In this particular sculpture in Vidyaśankara Temple, it shows Jinn.
Okay. So that's why, it is quite a surprise that I have not seen Buddha in the arrowhead anywhere.
Yeah, nobody has seen. That is why I particularly showed that sculpture, because it's an extraordinarily unique one.
Okay.
Who made it? Why? What the imagination behind it is, what we cannot fathom. But
right.
And you know what you can interpret about that. That's
right. So there are a series of questions from a person called Prashant. The first question is this. I noticed that all the deities having a Sudarshana chakra here have a chakra with 6 spokes. Is this a rare representation and emphasis of Shanmata form of worship? I think that is stretching it a bit too much, but over to you.
First thing, Prashant, isn't it? Prashant, first thing is that I haven't noticed how many spokes are there in that chakra, to be honest. So I really don't think Shanmatas... See, Shanmata was established, yes, we know, because the Shankaracharya wanted all of those people to come into the mainstream. But apart from that, I don't think the chakra shows anything else. And that is my knowledge.
Yeah. So his second question is, I noticed the presence of a scorpion below the Murti of Brahma Shirat Chetaka Murti and also Lakulisha. What is the significance of this?
It must have been a Bhairava. I don't think I showed you a Bhairava. If it was a scorpion, it should be a Bhairava.
Okay. And then he is asking, the next question is whether there is a Murti with Danda, is naked and has a 3-headed snake tied around the waist. Is that Lakulisha?
In this, what I showed you people?
He says it is in the temple. I don't know whether, I don't remember you showing it. But he's talking about such a Murti in the temple.
Oh, I have to scratch my head about that. A 3-headed gentleman?
No. A Murti holding a staff or a danda is naked and has a 3-headed snake tied around his waist. I think that must be a possible Bhikshatana or no.
Bhikshatana is also there. Bhikshatana is there in that series of pain, this thing. Does he have any, does he know of any, what is on the pedestal?
Prashant, if you are listening to this, you can type and I can, where exactly did you see this particular icon, Prashant?
There are about 5 or 6 Bhairavas of different types in the temple, on the temple's walls. So I don't know which one this is, but I want to know what was on the, if he knows.
Yeah. So maybe, he says he has taken the picture during his trip. So let's see if he says where he found it. By the way, he's also asking for, can you suggest reference books or share links of, them? Maybe if an online copy of your PhD thesis is available, can that be shared? Would love to know more about the temple.
Online thesis is not available, but by the end of this year, my book will be published.
Okay.
Okay, then I'm sure they can get it.
Yeah. Prashant, the book is going to be published, her book on this particular temple, and you can get it. So he's saying again, he's under a 3-headed hood of a snake. He has an amulet of Nagas. So who is he talking about? One of the, you talked about a Natha Sampradaya.
That is a Natha Sampradaya.
Yeah. Is there anyone who can probably be linked to that based on what he's talking about?
I don't know. I don't even remember anybody like this.
Okay. That's okay. Maybe we'll let go of that.
So there are about 5, 6 Bhairavas. There were no who have snakes around them, but I don't know this particular one. I'm sorry, I cannot recollect at the moment.
Okay, no problem. There is demand for arranging a tour to the temple, so they, we all can learn from the experts. Maybe we'll figure out some possible time and see what.
Let's do it winter.
Yeah. There is a question from Somashekar. He wants you to say something about the Dwarapalas inside the temple.
See, the Dwarapalas inside the temple next to the Vidyaśankara Linga is an interesting Dwarapala. I should have told you about it. One is like Hanumanta. It's got a monkey face.
Okay.
The rest are all the regular ones. Shiva has Shaiva Dwarapalas. Vishnu has Vaishnava ones. And Brahma has ones which have Kamandalu in their hands. Okay? But the one with Vidyaśankara, to the right of the Vidyaśankara Linga, is a Dwarapala which has the face of a monkey. Now, I don't know why it is so, but it is there, just one of them. The other one is just a normal Dwarapala, just one of them.
Okay. Okay.
Hanumanta. And that's the only one which is a little strange. Others are all the same looking ones.
Okay. I mean, any interpretation by anybody on what that would possibly mean?
Finally, what it boils down to this. It's what we interpret. Because of the lack of anything. So I don't see any connection between Hanumanta, if it is Hanumanta, and the Dwarapala. So why he has a monkey face is, I think, really anybody's guess.
Okay.
That is the biggest problem with this temple.
Okay. So the second question is also one of the controversial questions which is sort of raging in Tamil Nadu is that the Saiva Siddhanta temples, some of the temples have recently seen placement of either Kanchi Shankaracharya, Chandrasekharendra Saraswati's image being installed, and vehemently opposed by the people of the Saiva Siddhanta faith, let's say, right? The idea is that Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara, had criticized Saiva Siddhanta as well as part of his criticism of, he has criticized Pancharatra, he has criticized various sampradayas. According to him, he has a certain, in proposing his Advaita philosophy form, he has obviously questioned various formats. So how can you have such a person placed in such temples? Now, some of the let me complete that so that you can take the question completely on. So, some people in turn have said that placing Vidyaśankara's icon in a Shaiva Agamic temple is not unknown, and they give an example of a couple of temples of Kanchipuram built during the time of Rajasima Pallava, where there are Dakshinamurti panels, which usually will have four, the Sanat Kumaras sitting underneath them. But in one of the temples, they have 6 of them, and one of them is presented in the form of a sannyasi with the Ekadanda behind. And Sivaramamurti points out that it could be, Vidyaśankara being depicted there. This is there's a reference to this. Okay, so this is shown, saying that it is not completely unthinkable that you can have such a representation in a temple. Now, there is no such problem when it comes to the Vidyaśankara temple, because it is very much under the control of the Sringeri Shankaramat. And the small panel that you showed of a sannyasi with 4 disciples at one of the friezes, right? Which presents, it could possibly be interpreted in the absence of any clear written data that it could be Shankaracharya and his disciples. So, in a sense, I don't know, have you heard of any other temple anywhere in India where Shankaracharya's pratimas have been sculpted? I'm not talking about the modern ones, but in the last 1,000-ish years or before that period of having such an icon placed somewhere.
See, I don't know about I haven't seen so many temples, but right. in Hampi, in the temple on top in the painting, there is a Pallaki carrying the Shankaracharya, and that's a much older temple, because Vidyaśankara and not Vidyaśankara, but Bharati Tirtha Swami, or one of them, being carried in a Pallaki. There's one painting that exists there in the temple in Hampi. I haven't noticed, because this is the only temple I worked so hard on.
Okay. And there is a comment from Uma Rudran. Where she says Nandi is shown sometimes with a Vanara face.
Oh.
Curves from Ravana.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I will look into that.
Okay. Then there is a other question, which is from Kaushiki Darba Chebiam.
Hold on, just get a little water. 1 second.
Sure. No problem. Just give us a minute and she will join us. Prashant, in the meantime, the picture that you are talking about, if it's available online, you can give the URL. I don't know how else. The only other way you can share that with me, it has to be only in this kind of a form.
Sorry, I had to get a little more. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah,
I think I was asking about, Kaushiki has a question.
Yes,
I'd like to know more about the astronomical orientation of the construction and its date. Date you already mentioned roughly. But astronomical orientation, I think she's she's talking about the cardinal direction.
See, the exact map I do not have right now with me, but yes, the Shikhara is supposed to be the Meru, the top of the Meru, and the sun and moon are going around it, and all that is what the original thing was. And these Rashis there, because see, I think the basic idea is that there is Meru, that is a story we have. There is the sun and moon. And the Rashis are also, because everything is going around Meru. So Rashi pillar, I mean, this is also, I think, maybe true, maybe not, I don't know. But that's also one of these, a lot of people have done a lot of work on that, Rashi pillars. And I think it's just saying that since all of them, the planets, the sun, the moon are all there, it just depicts that this temple is like Meru, which everything which is going around the temple. That's exactly what he's trying to say. The gentleman who's worked on it. And there are, it's because there are 12 Rashis and they have made that story. But exactly how it is the orientation picture, I do not have it right now.
I think her question is there any illumination of sun's rays on pillars on particular days?
No, we thought there was. This Shailaja, who is from the Astronomical Society, has sat there for a year from the winter solstice to the summer one, and every day recorded when the door opens and where the sun comes. So she have recorded for more than a year and a half or two, and found that only 3 or 4 get the light when that day comes. Most of them don't get lit.
Okay.
And that is not the right thing about it.
So in a sense, the the asterism or the particular nakshatra where the sun rises as Earth goes around sun, it's very different from when you cannot completely the whole temple is also moving along, and there is no way you can get the light when around the 6 a.m. That it goes to different pillars is simply not possible.
That is what I think. Though these were very many years back, I feel that was just somebody might have said it on a particular day and just made a statement without really checking on, like Shailaja has done. She has an extraordinary amount of work.
Right.
There's the sun falling on it is there in one of the science magazines.
Okay.
She's fully, whatever their results are, is published already.
Okay. So overall, I think those are primarily the. There is one more question that Prashant is the one who has been bombarding us with questions. This in the Harihara Murti says in the representation there is an asura under the feet of Vishnu. So that's I guess it's Apasmara Purusha, which is normally under either a Nataraja or a Natesa or even Dakshinamurti. That's a pure Shiva Murti. In this case, even for Harihara, it is there, and so that's his, his doubt as to why that is the case.
I have no idea. I have to go back to my pictures to see Harihara and see if it's really an Apasmara there.
Okay. So in the book that you are planning to bring out, would you have all the images with the description completely? Okay. So that would certainly be helpful, because we can then carry the book to the temple and then compare and look at what has been written there.
61 images are going to be put there.
Okay, wonderful. The 2 things that we have to look out for. One is the book. The other is you are offered to me personally. So maybe with a bunch of friends that we can go along with you to see the temple. So I will certainly.
As long as it is in November, December. I have been Sringeri In summer, unless you're so much in love with it that you want to step on those hot stones.
We will find the right time, which is comfortable to you and also to all of us based on the kind of, the weather patterns, etc. But it's a fascinating, and you are right.
Fascinating. The reason why it's fascinating is like you have it is basically what you see and what you derive from it. Like this Apasmara under Harihara, I have not noticed it. And this is what I say. Every time you go to the temple, you notice something. And now because Prashant has said that it is there,
Right.
Surely will stand in front of that icon the next time I go and check out, because I'm not too sure if it's Apasmara. First, I have to check out if it is so.
Wonderful.
Yes, every time you go to a temple, you think you've learned
Something new. Yeah.
There is always something new which comes up, which is a fascinating thing. And
Right.
people ask questions that makes you start thinking more.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for a wonderful lecture and a great introduction to a wonderful temple, which is unique. No doubt, it is absolutely unique. There's nothing like that.
100% unique.
Right. Right.
Because of the equality of all this. See, that is what is beautiful about this temple. There is no, it is mine or yours, or I'm Shiva, or you're Vishnu, or you're somebody else. Every one of them is represented. And finally, I think we need such temples. When you say
Right.
we're all okay with everything.
Right.
Is it whether Shankaracharya is on a Shaiva, some Agama temple or not? This is a much better way of looking at it.
Absolutely.
I think that is my point of view. I'm not anybody else's.
No, I fully agree with you. Thank you. Thank you for a wonderful lecture once again. And we are going to have a whole host of programs from Tamil Heritage Trust, and we want all of you, especially the ones who have come specifically for this lecture. And if this is your first introduction to Tamil Heritage Trust, please
Yes.
follow us.
First
Come
introduction.
for all